How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Drew Johnson, and our DallasBasketball.com colleague tonight, Lance Roberson. I did say that right, didn't I? I know the few other times I have completely botched that, so I made it a point to get it right this time. But you can find all of us on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can find myself at Dalton_Trigg. You can find my guy DJ at Coach Drew 33, and you can find Lance at Lance_972. Guys, we're not starting this episode off by doing our normal intro video. So everybody listening knows what that means. It means the Mavs lost, and it wasn't just a normal loss. It was your game one thumping at the hands of the OKC Thunder. The final score was 117-95. The Mavs are down 0-1 in the second round series. The Mavs are now 0-5 now, I believe, all time with Jay Kidd as head coach in game ones. But they've also won 3 series and lost 1. So maybe that's a sign for things to come later in the series. But man, it's this one had a much different feel, in my opinion, from what we experienced in game one against the Clippers. Because after that one, it was like, okay, well, the Clippers, they're a little bit older, and you kind of felt like the Mavs were eventually going to get going, and they did. It didn't. That wasn't the feel I got from this game, because OKC is young. They're young, supremely talented, and I get the feeling that this is going to be a dogfight pretty much for the Mavs for the remainder of this series. So, DJ, I want to start with you, and then we'll swing it over to Lance for his initial thoughts too. But what are you thinking after the Mavs put up this complete dud in game one against the Thunder?
The first thing that really stood out to me just from the get-go was our inability to do anything with them on the offensive glass. We ended up giving up 16 offensive rebounds, but even more so, we gave up 25 second chance points. And that wasn't just because they were going right back up with it after getting the offensive rebound. Oh, no, they were kicking it out to wide open jump shooters on the three-point line, which are so often open off of offensive rebound opportunities. And they definitely got the memo on that. And it appears that every single person on this Oklahoma City team is capable of hitting three-point jump shots. 1 through 5, all of them, every single one of them. Did everybody on the team hit a 3 tonight? Because that's what it seemed like at times. Another thing, 15 turnovers. And, it'd be one thing if it was just like unforced errors, but they were forcing these turnovers. These were turnovers born from pressure. And that's very concerning, because that means that our ball handlers, at least our main ball handlers, cannot handle the pressure, or at least they couldn't handle it tonight. They shot 45% from 3. And, that's pretty decent. That's not like the 61% like the Clippers shot that one game, but 45% is pretty good. And I would say, I'm not certain about this because I wasn't keeping up with the percentage the entire time, but I do think that percentage was actually much higher in the second quarter and third quarter. At least it seemed to be, because they just seemed to be hitting everything. And the only reason that percentage probably wasn't higher is because they were getting the rebound and then just kicking it back out for another 3.
And to your point, I was looking at it after you said it, but for every OKC player that played at least 15 minutes in this game, every one of them hit a 3 except for Josh Giddey, who was 0 for 2.
Oh, crap. Honestly, I didn't even know that was the case. It just seemed that way just watching the game, that all of them were hitting 3s. And we know that Josh Giddey can hit 3s too. So, all of them are capable of hitting 3s. So that's great.
Yeah.
We couldn't get stops, period. We would make big plays on the offensive end, and we'd get back into it. Most notably, we'd trim it down to 1, and then they went on like a 15-0 run or something crazy like that. And that's just another example of not being able to get stops. I mean, it was just this way the entire game. Kidd went with some strange lineups, I thought. We went with some small ball lineups, some 4-guard lineups, and we just don't need to be doing that against the size that they put out there. And I understand that, whenever things aren't working, you're just throwing things against the wall just to see if they stick. I get that as a coach, but usually if they're able to hit shots with their size, small ball isn't going to help any. And then my last point is Luka is still very much injured. Very much injured.
Oh, yeah.
He is not all the way there. Honestly, he's moving worse, or he was moving worse this game than he was in the LA Clippers series, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And
he's definitely not right. Definitely not right. He's shooting. Let's see. He shot barely 40% from the field in the first round. Shot almost 24% from deep on over 11 attempts per game. So, I mean, that wasn't good. And then he started out this series shooting 6 of 19 overall and 1 of 8 from 3. But Lance, I mean, what are you thinking after this one? I mean,
I think most of the points that were made were great, especially the rebounding. I mean, not we all, but a lot of us thought, this would be the series where Gafford and Lively actually mattered. And, I mean, to an extent, Gafford did matter. I mean, he had 5 blocks, but he also missed a lot of bunnies. I think he got blocked by Aaron Wiggins, I believe, on a layup attempt.
He did.
I'm not – I know I'm supposed to be impressed by his defense, but I think he went, 5 for 12, and all his shots come at the rim. That's not a good look. I expected the Mavs to be a little bit more calmed down, which – they kind of did in the third quarter. And earlier in the first quarter, they were playing really great defense, but they kind of started unraveling once the foul discrepancy started to happen. Although, give Luka credit, he didn't get a technical, which I thought he was going to get. But the experience didn't matter. I mean, I had Kyrie Irving under 2.5 turnovers. He hit the over in the first quarter. So, I mean, that's the scary part. And one thing about the turnovers, you would think all the turnovers that Dallas committed – Oklahoma would have benefited from. I'm surprised. I just looked at the box score. The Mavs had 22 points off of OKC's turnovers, whereas OKC only scored 12 points off the turnovers, which I still don't understand that stat because I felt like Luka gave away 3 full court turnover passes when he was trying to get cute in the first half. And again, Luka's he's not right. And I don't want to use it as an excuse because honestly, he hasn't been right since game 2 or game 3. But he also needs to be better with the looks that he's presented himself with. I mean, you got Kyrie Irving as a teammate. Force him to get active in the first half rather than averaging 20-something in the second half. I just think Luka is settling, and I don't want to be too harsh on him because he's obviously hurt, but you can't afford to do that. Missing on defensive rotations as well. He's just – it's almost like he shouldn't even be out there. I know the Mavs should want to play him. But if he's going to get hurt long term, then what's the point? I mean, this OKC team is legit. Yeah. I didn't really take them that seriously, but they have a lot of poise. I mean, they have a rookie center that's playing pretty good for being a rookie center, whereas Lively looks like a rookie center. It's not over, obviously, because that third quarter showed that the Mavs have it in them to calm it down and to get back. Kyrie shows why he's special. But the THJ minutes are just abomination at this point. And I
agree. Complete waste.
I don't want to be too hard on him because he seems like a nice guy, but I mean, that one sequence where he got 2 straight 3-point shots and obliterated them off the rim is
every time.
I'm not trying to be too harsh, but it's bad. It's bad to watch.
Every time Tim Hardaway Jr. gets extended run, and every time there's a sequence where he gets 2 or 3 shots in a row and doesn't even hesitate, just jacks them up one after another. I always think of that meme that, we circulate around Mavs Twitter every now and then where it's just in quotations, it's Tim Hardaway Jr. time. And then it's Tim Hardaway Jr. that said it. That's how he plays every time he gets in the game. And man, I think him, and I mean, I'm not wishing injury on anybody, but he injured his ankle shooting a 3 in I think it was the early phases of game 2 against the Clippers last series. And he missed the rest of that series. And I feel like the Mavs won that series in a sense because he was out. And I mean, that's nothing against him personally, but I mean, we have a legitimate track record of this with THJ. You know, he was out for the entire second half of the season in 2022, and the Mavs went on a massive run, kind of like they did at the end of this season, and went all the way to the Western Conference Finals. So I mean, we have this proof here that when THJ isn't playing, the Mavs tend to play better overall. Now, he has games that he can win you a game or two if he gets hot shooting the 3 ball. But when he's not, I mean, it's just he doesn't have enough there. You know, being a negative 13 in 17 minutes and going 0 for 4 from 3, and, you know, there's nothing else to show for it in the box score except for 2 rebounds. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. So it's obviously not all his fault, but, you know, it definitely doesn't help the Mavs case going forward, especially against a team like OKC that has so many versatile players, you know, so many anti-THJs on their team, big guys who can pass, shoot, rebound, everything. So he's not going to be able to be, you know, on the court very much this series. And, you know, losing Maxey hurts in this series.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously.
Versatility.
You know, playing those lineups that the Mavs had Maxey at the 4 and Lively at the 5, those lineups killed in that last series. It was only like a 16-minute sample size with Maxey and Lively in the front court. But I mean, that one alone, DJ and I talked about it on the last pod. It was absurd. They had like a 55 net rating in just that 16-minute sample size. So losing Maxey hurts a lot. He's going to be out for at least this entire series, maybe longer, or maybe the rest of the season if the Mavs can't get past the series. But I think what this all boils down to is the Mavs are going to go as far as Luka carries them. That's what this boils down to. And I know he's hurt. I know his knee isn't right. I know he can't hit a 3 to save his life right now. But unless he can just set his mind to, I'm not going to shoot a 3, I'm going to get in the paint. I'm going to touch the paint every single time, whether he takes the shot, passes it back out, whatever he decides to do with it. Unless he makes his mind up that he is not going to shoot 3s because he physically can't right now and dominate down low, the Mavs aren't going to win this series. He's going to have to make his mind up to do that. He did that in game 5 against the Clippers. He did it in game 6 as well, but he did get a couple of 3s to fall in that game 6. But he has got to make up his mind. He is going to dominate on the block because he can, and then operate from there and get everybody else involved. So,
I mean, you saw what he did to Lou Dort. I mean, he backed him down with like 1 or 2 moves, and he was already in the paint.
Yeah, and it was easy. It looked
That's
like he was
a perfect showcase of what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, and Lou Dort is like a linebacker, and he made it look super easy. That's what Luke is going to have to commit to doing if they're gonna win this series. So, big moment in the game, biggest moment in the game. So, the Mavs, they went into halftime down by 9, and they were down by 11 a minute and a half into the third quarter. Well, then they started to go on a run, and Kyrie hit a huge 3 in transition with a little less than 8 minutes left in the third quarter to cut the deficit to 1. It was 66-65, and he thought, okay, well, you know, they're waking up. They're hitting some shots here. Kyrie's getting going after yet another slow first half. And then all of a sudden, you know, OKC just started raining down 3s. Like DJ was talking about, everybody was hitting a 3. It didn't matter who, everybody touching it was hitting. And it just crushed the Mavs' hopes going into that fourth quarter, you know, where at the end of the third, they were down by as many as 15, and then Kyrie had it to 10 going in the fourth, but it didn't matter. So, like you said, Lance, I mean, they showed life. It's not like this is over. If they come back out in game 2 and steal home court going back to Dallas for games 3 and 4, you feel a whole lot better about things, just like you did, in that Clipper series in round 1. But man, it's always disheartening to start out a series the way they did. 2 consecutive, and I mean, this one was worse than the Clippers game. But just the way they let go of the rope, so to speak, and just let it get out of hand the way they did was very disheartening. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic going into game 2. I feel like if Gafford can be the Gafford that almost broke Wilt Chamberlain's record for consecutive made field goals in the regular season around the rim, then the Mavs will have a better chance of doing something special in the second round. But, just looking at the box score, and I always say this, you have to take plus minus with a grain of salt because it's a team stat, not just individually. But, I mean, it's very obvious when you're looking at it that Gafford was the biggest positive from this game because everybody in the starting lineup was at least a negative 11 or worse. And, you had Tim Hardaway Jr. negative 13 off the bench, Lively negative 13, Josh Green negative 20 in 25 minutes off the bench. And then Lively was a negative 2 in his 27 minutes. So he was, it says negative 2, but he was the least of the negative from this game. So, DJ, adjustment wise, what do you want to see from the Mavs? And not just talking about Luka and his inefficiency and all that, but just schematically, what do you want to see the Mavs do different going into game 2?
How about grab some defensive rebounds? And I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm being dead ass serious. Here's the deal. And honestly, my adjustments kind of lead into each other. If you are able to secure defensive rebounds, you are able to get outlet passes. If you are able to get outlet passes, you are able to get Kyrie Irving opportunities in transition. If you are able to get Kyrie Irving opportunities in transition, you will score. And if you can score, then you can keep up with them. But if you allow second chance, third chance opportunities, they will not only score, they will make threes. And whenever they make threes, you get what you got tonight. So limit them to one possession. Try to get runouts off of these defensive rebounds. See if we can't get Kyrie Irving into some space in transition. Let him create, and the rest will take care of itself. That our biggest issue tonight was allowing 25 points off of second chance opportunities is ridiculous. I mean, that's damn near a quarter of their points.
Yeah.
So those are my adjustments. Rebound, get some outlet looks, get Kyrie Irving into space, turn him loose.
Definitely had with the kind of defense that OKC plays and the length they have with everybody in their lineup, you got to get Kyrie in transit. We talked about it a little bit earlier tonight, DJ, but in that Clippers series, I forget the exact number, but his true shooting percentage was north of 90% in transition alone in that Clippers series, which is absolutely ridiculous.
That's insane.
Definitely get that man some easy opportunities and some pull-up threes and, going downhill toward the rim.
I was going to say, it doesn't even need to be easy. Just get him on the move. If you get him on the move, he can make things happen for you. Because like we have said over and over again, he is the best ball handler in the history of this game. He will make things happen for you in transition.
And that's what really sucks about Luka and his knee issue, because Luka has gotten better about pushing the pace this season. The Mavs have, tremendously improved. They took the biggest jump in pace, than any team did from last season to this season. So he's shown that he can up the pace when he wants to, when he's healthy. And it's just so apparent, that he's hobbled and he's not playing with that same pace. He's pounding the air out of the ball. There's many times where he's holding on to it, 8, 9, 10 seconds or so. And that's just, the Mavs have to play with more pace than what they did tonight. 95 points isn't going to cut it. You gotta find some way to do better. For most of this game, aside from the second quarter, which completely got out of hand, I thought the Mavs played really good defense overall. You know,
Yeah.
they played as good of defense as they could until that avalanche of threes came in.
Up until the shot goes up. Then it all falls apart because then they can't get defensive rebounds. And it doesn't matter how good a defense you play. I mean, unless you get a turnover or something, it does not matter what kind of effort you put in on the defensive end. If you cannot secure the defensive rebound, it does not matter. It does not matter. That's why, in my opinion, rebounding is the most important aspect of this sport. If you can't rebound, you can't win.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, look, that's something that Gafford and Lively are going to have to take personally because, you know, I know Chet is a unicorn, so to speak. You know, he's very tall. He can go up and grab a rebound, and, you know, he's proven that the physicality doesn't bother him as much as we thought it might. But, you know, if you look at the rebounding totals for OKC, Chet only had 3.
Yeah.
Jalen Williams had 3. SGA and the other Jalen Williams that comes off the bench, they had 8 apiece. I'm sorry, 9 apiece. I was looking at defensive rebounds. What am I talking about? It's too late to be doing this shit. Okay, hold on.
Gonna edit that part out.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna leave it in because I just don't care because it's midnight and it was an awful game. Chet had 7 rebounds. Sorry, he had.
I was like, man, that's
7 rebounds for Chet. 4 of them offensive rebounds. Jalen Williams, the one that starts, had 5. SGA had 9. Giddey 5. Dort 4. The other Jalen Williams off the bench had 9. And then you had Aaron Wiggins with 5 off the bench. So, I mean, it's a group effort. I mean, a lot of rebounding is just effort and getting yourself in good position. And the Mavs have to do a much better job. I think what happened in this game, I think Jason Kidd and the rest of them just came into this game like, okay, well, we have Gafford and Lively. You know, they're bigger, more physical than OKC's bigs. They thought they were just going to come in and just automatically out-rebound them, and that wasn't the case. Everybody else got their butts kicked on the board, so they got to do a better job with that. But DJ, you gave your thoughts going into game 2. Lance, what are you thinking? What do you want to see different from this team as they try to even the series and steal home court?
So I don't want to sound like Charles Barkley and Shaq, but Luka definitely got to get in the paint. You know, the 3-point shots, as much as they are magical when they go in, it just looks really flat right now. I want to reiterate on the rebounds. There was a lot of long offensive rebounds that Oklahoma City got, and those are the backbreakers, like the ones that they rebounded from like the free throw line. Like those are the ones that were like, okay, great defense. It looks like the Mavs are going to get the ball and go the other side, and they were allowing the long offensive rebounds. Gafford, I think he's going to be a lot better in the second game. There's no way he can miss around the rim that much.
Yeah.
The Josh Green, I'm surprised he was at a -22, or what'd you say, -28? Because he was one of the few
25.
He was one of the few bright spots in terms of like actually, and I think this was by design because he was left wide open on multiple occasions.
Yeah,
that was probably by design. But he was actually converting. I think he was 3 for 8 or something like that for 3, which for me that's pretty good for him.
But he did most of his damage early in the. I know he hit his first 2 threes. So that means he went 1 of 6 the rest of the way.
And surprisingly, he was in for garbage time. Like I was surprised. Like in the end, he was still out there, which I thought it was kind of weird to have him out there, but whatever. But no, I just think getting Kyrie involved early, no matter how you do it. I know Kyrie. I think he naturally just he lets that happen, but I think Kid's going to have to talk to him because it's clear Luka is not going to be the one that serves the drink. I mean, if he does, great, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Kyrie's going to have to be like he was in the Clipper series. He's going to have to take the lead again. I just don't see Luka, unless they sit him for a couple games, I don't see where he's going to get back to anywhere near, even like 90%, 80%, because it doesn't look like he's even at 80% right now.
Well, I mean, look, and let's be real here too. I mean, the Mavs, even with Luka hobbled, they can't afford to sit him. Drew and I talked about this in the previous series, where it's
I mean,
like,
yeah, of course. But I'm just worried about his long
to sit
term.
him. Yeah,
I don't think he would sit. I think if Kid even wanted to sit him, I don't think Luka would sit, and I think ownership would listen to Luka. Because there was a lot of encouraging things. The Mavs really played the Oklahoma City Thunder well defensively. It's just, hey man, I mean, you got to pick your poison. They can't. I guess they just can't close out well enough. THJ was getting hit on pump fakes so bad. I mean, I'm surprised. I'm shocked that there wasn't a 3-point shot foul called today, because there was a lot of bad closeouts, like sloppy ones where THJ was like behind the defender by like a couple of feet. I just think the shooting was such a crazy thing to happen with the 3-point shooting. I think that'll regress a little bit. Obviously, the turnovers got to stop. I mean, 4 turnovers from Kyrie. I think him and Kyrie had 4 turnovers to start the game, and somehow Luka still had more turnovers than Kyrie, which amazed me, because Kyrie did clean up in the second half. I think really it's turnovers, rebounding, and Luka's shot selection. I think those are the main things that we gotta, or that Mavs gotta clean up. I don't see a Mavs team winning with Luka going 1 for 9, I believe, or 1 for 8 he went today. Yeah. It's not gonna happen. I mean, those sound so simple, but those are the smallest things that make the biggest difference. And against teams like this that are such, I mean, I'm in so awe of how clean OKC looked in a lot of these stretches. Even when they started so stagnant in the third quarter, I think they started like 1 or 2 for 8 or 2 for 9, and somehow they cleaned it all up. I mean, they could have really unraveled in that situation. So I gained some respect for OKC, because I'm not going to lie, nothing impressed me against the Pelicans, because the Pelicans are undermanned. And honestly, the Pelicans are the Pelicans. They're just not an elite team. So,
well, say what you want about the Pelicans, but the Pelicans did a much better job on the glass than the Mavericks did. And I think that's the reason why in the third quarter we saw the kind of the chink in the armor of the Thunder, because they weren't getting all these second chance opportunities. Everything was being held to one possession. And whenever you do that, all of a sudden they seem a lot more mortal. I think the biggest key is rebounding. I think that is the key to everything. I think that if we can just secure defensive rebounds and keep them off the offensive glass, our odds improve tremendously, even with a hobbled Luka.
And that's going to take a team effort too. You know, as good as Kyrie was during that third quarter run where they cut it to 1 point and it looked like they were, really starting to figure stuff out. He only had 1 rebound, and obviously, he's the smallest guy on the court. But, there are several games in that first series where he had 5, 6, 7 rebounds. Especially the last 2 games of the series, you saw the defensive intensity that he was bringing to the table. So, I don't know. I mean, we'll have a better feel for what this series really is after game 2. A part of me wants to believe that the Mavs, this is just how they treat game 1s. It's a feel out game. You want to see exactly what they're going to do, and then you come back and make adjustments and go from there. But like I said, this is not the Clippers. This is the Clippers had a bunch of Hall of Fame guys on their team, but they were aging Hall of Famers, guys that are not who they used to be. Kawhi Leonard was hurt. The vibes were kind of in the toilet, especially for those last 2 games. It's not the same with OKC. OKC is young. They are on the rise. They have an MVP finalist. Shea was great. I really hate that the Mavs let go of the rope the way they did to end up losing this game by 20 plus, because I planned on complaining a little bit about how the game was called, especially in the first half, with all the little ticky-tack fouls and everything. But after the Mavs let go of the rope and they lost by how much they did, it didn't matter anymore.
Shit, I'll bitch about it right now. I will complain about it right now. Okay, here's the deal. There was a point in that game where SGA had more free throw attempts than the whole Mavericks team, and that is ridiculous.
2006. It was 2006 PTSD for me. It was like the Dwayne Wade stuff all over.
I mean, I think there was legitimately like 5 or 6 straight offensive possessions from OKC in which they got a foul called.
Yep.
I mean, it's discouraging. It's really killing the tempo of the game. But honestly, once they started letting them play, the game got a little close in that third quarter.
And again, I mean, look, for as many, we talked about Gafford missing bunnies, and he was 5 from 12 overall. There were about 3 of those misses that should have been foul calls, if we're being honest. Right at the rim, he got knocked out of bounds a couple times, and like nothing was called. And that could have made a difference too, because I mean, other time, they actually started calling it more in the second half, and he ended up shooting 6 of 8 from the free throw line during game 1. But he wouldn't have shot as bad as he did if the same whistle would have been going his way like it was, on OKC's side, especially in that first half where it was so frustrating. So again,
in all fairness, though, the Mavs did finish 68% from the free throw line, so they weren't even registering on the ones they got. It's discouraging. It's like you build up all that equity of like, hey, I deserve these calls. I need to get these calls, and then when you get them, it's like, well,
you miss 8
of them, but like, yeah, right, like, come on.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how. Like I said, we've seen how the Mavs do. They lose game 1, they come back. The only series where they didn't bounce back and look like themselves was game 2 of the Phoenix series in 2022, where they ended up getting beat pretty bad again, and then they turned it around in games 3 and 4. And then that Western Conference Finals against the Warriors, where they went down 0-3 before they won a game, and then by that point it was pretty much over. So we'll see how they respond. I mean, like I said, a lot of it, and I mean, it may not be fair to put those kind of expectations on him with what he's dealing with his knee, but that's what comes with the territory of being a franchise player. The Mavs are going to go as far as Luka and his hobbled knee will take them. And he's going to have to make up his mind to get in the paint and just stop shooting threes altogether, because Luka shooting a three-pointer right now might as well be a turnover. I know the Mavs ended up with 15 turnovers in this game, but, you look at all, Luka shot 8 threes and made 1 of them. You might as well say they had, 22 turnovers because he just cannot hit a 3 right now. And I hate it. But, they're going to have to game plan going forward like he just can't shoot threes, because he can't. And, we'll see what they can do from there. And then also my other biggest takeaway, or the biggest thing I want to see adjusted going from game 1 to game 2, is the Tim Hardaway Jr. minutes. I have a pretty strong opinion that the Mavs cannot advance any further in the playoffs if Tim Hardaway Jr. is playing north of 10 minutes a game, if that. I mean, I really just don't think, you can throw him in there at the beginning of the game, sometime late in the first quarter or early second quarter. And if he hits his first 2 shots, fine, ride that wave, because he can go on a heater. If he goes in there like he did in the first half and misses 3 consecutive shots, in a row, it's like, sit him. It's not his night. It's not going to be his night. So I want to see those minutes get distributed elsewhere, whether it's a few more for Josh Green. Dante Exum, he wasn't good, but he only played 9 minutes. Give him a little bit more of an opportunity. This won't happen, but I would honestly rather see, those 17 minutes split between AJ Lawson and Jaden Hardy than I would.
I was going to say this, and this is going to piss people off because I know the way people feel about him, but all Tim Hardaway Jr. is Jaden Hardy with an extended leash. Maybe not even as good.
Well, look, and what think about I mean, this is going to sound like desperation probably, but with Maxey being out, your stretch 4, the guy who can hit threes and he's a big body you can throw in there next to Lively or Gafford at the 4. Why not try Markieff Morris for just a few minutes? You could throw him in there for 5 minutes and it probably wouldn't do as much damage as what having Tim Hardaway Jr. in there for 17 minutes did.
Yeah, because at least he know his role. He would know his role. He would know to play within himself.
Kid's gonna he wants to space the floor at all costs.
Yeah.
Well, I hope they try something because look, I'm not saying Markieff Morris is going to go in there and do massive things or fill Kleba's role perfectly, but if we're just talking from a positional standpoint, and if the Mavs really want to assert their size difference between themselves and OKC, you're going to have to play a similar style like if you had Kleba, and you're going to have that big four next to your big five, or a four that can actually stretch the floor as well, and you have your big five, and you can do that in theory by plugging Morris in there. So we'll see if he can get a few minutes, because like I said, it literally cannot be any worse than what they got from Tim Hardaway Jr. tonight while not having size.
Hey, I bet he gets a few rebounds.
Yeah, at least Markieff Morris will get you a couple rebounds and is a big body that can stand in there. And we know he can foul people pretty hard too if needed. So we know that part about one of the Morris twins.
We don't need any help with that, apparently.
Well, guys,
let's say.
Well, I appreciate y'all joining me in this game one. I called it a therapy session because it was so hard to watch for most of the game, except for that spurt in the third quarter. But I appreciate it. And to every one of you out there listening, I appreciate y'all as well. Be sure to go like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. If you haven't left us a review on Apple Podcasts, be sure to go do that, and to leave us put your social media at when you leave the review, whether it's at the top or in the description or whatever it is, so we know how to contact you if you win our giveaway. We're doing a giveaway for game 3, which is Saturday. Yeah, it's Saturday, 2:30 tip-off time at American Airlines Center. Giving away 2 tickets for game 3, Mavs Thunder. Be sure to go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts for your chance to win those 2 tickets. And then be sure to be following me at Dalton_Trigg, DJ at Coach Drew 33, and our pod account at Step Back Mavs. Guys, appreciate it. Y'all have a great rest of your Tuesday night, and go get some sleep. We got another day of content ahead on Wednesday. We'll see y'all.